All right. Good morning, everybody. This is the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber, host of the All About Nothing podcast with Zach King, and you can find me on social media at Barrett Gruber. With me is Bill Kimler, host of Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jamil Brooks. You can follow him at politicalbillsc. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good morning to you, sir. Actually, had some news I was saving up for today's episode. Couldn't wait to tell you.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Is this going to be another one of those where I told you something and you're going to be like, oh, guess what we're doing? You break the news first?
No.
Oh.
Why? You never take me seriously. We were talking before we went on the air about the weekend. There's one thing I did over the weekend that I didn't tell you I wanted to save.
Oh, okay.
So I've actually started a new independent business. I have created a little company called Kimler Baby Sugar Shack. And we're going to be doing snow cones in town. And we're using AI to figure out the optimal flavor for our customers. That's going to be our distinguishing factor. So I'm very excited to announce that. In fact, I put your profile through the AI, and your snow cone flavor is used chewing tobacco. So it's we're really excited to have these unique flavors come out. We have a 3D printer machine that can create these unique flavors. And remember, Kimler Baby Sugar Shack.
Shame.
Come on out.
Shame, Bill.
What?
Shame. What Bill is referring to is our latest
this is
episode.
going to be fun for you to try to explain.
Yeah, our latest episode, Bill Fry, who went before city council here in Columbia to discuss the parking situation, because he received a $50 parking ticket on what would have been like a $20 DoorDash order that he would have made. And he knows what he did was wrong, but there isn't available parking in Columbia, South Carolina for quick in and out delivery, that sort of thing. Like, none of the restaurants on Main Street or on any of the adjacent streets have a signs in front of them, or some of them don't even have parking in front of them. But there's not the availability of just temporary short-term parking to run in and run out.
Fascinating episode. It was really good to hear the inside view of him writing a letter to the mayor, sending a pipe bomb to the mayor, all sorts of things that he did, as part of his civil engagement. I thought that was really, really interesting. So when that episode drops, it's dropped already, hasn't it? Right? It dropped yesterday.
Yeah, it dropped yesterday.
Great episode. I encourage all to listen to it. He even used a recording of his speech before city council.
Yeah.
And the threats that he issued, and that he was going to keep the town captive and until they bend to his will. It was really good.
They let him walk right out of the council chambers too.
Yeah.
Like all of what he said and whatnot. And it was just they let him walk right out. No,
That's because he mentioned the dead man switch, that if he wasn't at a certain place by a certain time, the hospital was going to explode while he walked away maniacally. I saw the movie. It was really good.
A regular joker he is. That was I was when I had seen that Bill had gone before the city council, and that he had shared that, and I had already watched that once before. I told him, I said, we gotta do an episode about this, because parking in Columbia is one of the things that I hear the biggest complaint about when it comes to getting in and around Columbia. Because once you can find a parking space, you're fine. But the app, I think one of the biggest problems with the app is the fact that it only allows me to secure a parking space or pay for 2 hours of parking. I can't pay for more than that. So if I go to work downtown and I'm parked out on Main Street, I have to move my car to an adjacent zone in order to continue to stay in the office. And I have to do that. But that means finding a zone. And around my building, there are 4 zones. But they fill up very quickly during the week. I mean, there's a lot of people that work downtown and don't have there's plenty of parking garages and things like that.
Yeah.
But they're not convenient to my office.
I used to travel a lot for work, and haven't so much in the last 5-6 years. But I went on a trip last summer, and one of the stops took me back to, I think it was the Charlotte airport. So I might be mistaken, but some new technology at the parking garage would actually direct you to an empty spot. Like the green arrows would point you to the empty spot because there were
Interesting.
detectors in every spot. And you could see where there are available. It would tell you what level to go to, what slot to go to, and even have arrows lit to point the way. And then once you pull in, obviously now that slot's taken. It's
Yeah,
like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen. It
that is
made
cool.
parking in a garage so much easier, finding an empty spot.
I'll say
And they
this.
had that up in Clemson. Well, we went to the Bananas game. They had these little detectors in every one of the spots in the parking lot to let you know what was occupied, what wasn't.
Yeah. The efficiency of the meter maids that go around and actually issue the tickets for the vehicles that have been sitting there for too long or didn't get
Isn't that a
tickets.
sexist term? Do they still call them meter maids?
The gentleman that was the meter maid,
Mr. Maid, isn't that what he is? Isn't that the
I think a
appropriate
man
line?
can be a maid, can he?
Man-made,
This is the 21st century.
made man.
The efficiency of it is just I don't think that there's I think there's got to be a better way of doing it, at least from the aspect of what it is that the city has their employees doing with issuing tickets, because they have to literally walk up to every car and pull up the license tag on the back of your car to see if you're in compliance with the ticketing. And if you've got an entire zone full of vehicles, you're going to every single one of them and checking. And it'll tell you like how close you are to it being time's up or whatever. But like it's absurd that it's absurd that they have to go through that. There has to be a better way. Like maybe something that stands in front of the vehicle that has some sort of a like an indicator as to when time has expired for that particular parking space, like a parking meter.
Right.
But they've moved away from those. Oh, Ami
Well,
said Ami said
doesn't
that
the app tell you that?
it does, but for the meter maid, Ami did say that the garage at Columbia Airport also does that for finding
Cool.
spaces. But yeah, the app for you and me says that. But in order for I'm not sure exactly what the meter maid goes through. The meter
I'm sure
person.
the Mr. Meter Man gets the same app and can tell, like, all right, I'm going to keep in mind this car because it's like 30 seconds away from expiring, and then you can pounce on it.
Right. Yeah.
I've only gotten one parking ticket in my life. The last one I got was 1992, and it was by university police at my school. And so I was parked illegally at the student union and got a ticket, and been pissed about it ever since, and have not donated a single dollar as an alumni because of that. I hold a grudge.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I knock on wood. I'm hoping this is wood. I have not gotten a speeding ticket. I've not gotten a parking ticket since since the very first time I moved, when I came up to start doing training for NCR when I moved here to Columbia. And I hadn't even moved here. We were in the process of training the new employees here in Columbia. And I got a speeding ticket that I fought, and ultimately the trooper dropped it because I had done all of the research to figure out exactly what I had done wrong.
You did the forensics.
Oh yeah, I went
reenactments.
I went up and did a whole grading. Like I measured the grade on where the ticket was issued. And he asked me, like, I showed up to the court date with all of the information that I had and evidence that I had to support my case. And he walked over to me and he said, so you're here to fight it? Or you're just gonna plead? And I said, no, I'm going to fight it. He said, with what evidence? I said, well, first of all, I said, you got me within 100 yards of the speed change. I said, as well, it was a greater than 5% increase in grade. I said, therefore, with a 5% increase in grade, the state expects, or according to state guidelines, I'm supposed to be able to maintain the speed I'm at until we have reached a grade that's less than 5%. Like I went through all this stuff, and he goes, you did all that? And I said, yeah. And I said, he goes, I'm just going to drop it. So I walked out of the Lawrence courthouse without having to pay a dime. So
you won and got a $50 fine dropped, but spent $3,000 in research and equipment and grade measurements and all that shit in order to get out of it. It's good for you, man. You fought the law and you won. Well done. You showed them.
Let's just say it was a $72 ticket, and I eyeballed it all. It's
There's
about
nothing worse. I haven't gotten pulled over for speeding in many, many years, but
Yeah.
I think the last time I did, I had my young kids in the back seat with me, and I was doing like 40 and a 25, one of those dumb things. And the kids were just behind me laughing their heads off because they knew dad got busted.
It's it's an intimidating thing to have a police officer come up behind you and with their lights on and whatnot. I did have something I wanted to bring up because it's the irony of
We're out
having
of time. So sorry.
it's the irony of having a health and human services secretary that goes swimming in sewage, a sewage tainted creek. So according to the article, he plunged into a creek deemed a hazard to human health as part of a Mother's Day celebration on Sunday. I'm not entirely certain whether or not he drugged his wife, was Cheryl Hines. I'm not sure if she got drug into this, but apparently he and his grandchildren all went swimming in this park that has been deemed by the National Park Service as dangerous, as having dangerous pathogens harmful to pets and humans. Is it possible that he's just a rebel?
Oh, or maybe he's the slime creature and just has to go back to the swamp of poo that's floating around and recharge. I mean, who knows? And there's pictures of him shirtless, swimming around the sewage pool.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Stop. It's too early for that. Don't need to see it. Say it. Just say it. The mind's eye can figure that out.
He is. Oh, do you want me to describe it? Look, ultimately, I'm concerned about the fact that he would drag his grandchildren into this. The signs, like the reporter that I saw for Fox News was standing next to where this picture was taken, and within 15 feet is a sign that says that it's closed to swimming.
But here's a something that does worry me. Where are the freaking consequences? So he goes swimming in sewage and he walks out of there just fine.
Right.
Like he's not in the ICU. He doesn't have a brain virus that's, rendered him incompetent.
Maybe.
Think about it. He's not in a coma, like you are. Like if you or I tried, even if we walked within 100 feet of that, we'd probably get sick with some infection. And he comes out just fine. Donald Trump stares at the blessed sun during an eclipse, right? And he's not blind. So it's like, where are the consequences for these dumb actions that if you or I even attempted it, we would be, woe is us.
Yeah.
They seem to skirt free. I really think there's some sort of superpowers out there that the dumber you are, the more immune you are to consequences.
It is. There
Darwin's theory of the fittest, survival of the fittest. He's scratching that out. He's like, I was wrong. Oops, my bad.
Donald Trump staring at the sun, not just once, but like on a couple occasions. Like during that solar eclipse, he literally looked up at the sun. I think someone tapped him, and maybe it was Melania for some reason. I don't know why she wouldn't want him to go blind, but tapped him, and then he did it again. But when the second time he did it, and he was like, "Hey, the sun, it's going behind the moon." I don't know.
It's not fair, Barrett. I want to stare at the sun. I want to go swimming in sewage, but no, I got to follow the laws.
I think that does add to your concern that he may potentially be immune from death, that he may just exist forever.
200, 300 years from now, he's still going to be around. You watch.
Oh, you would think that for a Doctor Doom character like that the Avengers would somehow figure out how to unravel and destroy his whole existence. But
so speaking of immortality, I saw a news article the other day that was really creepy. It was a guy who was murdered, and at the sentencing of the murderer, people go up and testify about the victim and why you should be locked up or why you should get the death penalty or what have you. They actually generated an AI video of the victim, the guy himself, to speak to the murderer at his hearing, and the judge allowed it.
Holy cow.
And so it was a rendering of this guy, big bearded fellow, and basically he just talked about his life and what a super Christian he was, and of all the people you could have murdered, this is like the worst guy you could have murdered because he was such a wonderfully human being. And I was thinking, I didn't like, should I start training my AI now? Should I start throwing all of these
Right.
videos
Right.
into the blender, all of my voices into the blender, and then upon my untimely demise, I can, have videos generated that freak out family members or be used in trials or, what
You
have you.
you could do your own eulogy. Like uh, you
Yeah,
could give your
we're
own
basically
eulogy.
coming to the part where, you saw in Superman when he is launched to Earth and then he builds that ice fortress up in
Yeah.
the North Pole, and
Yep.
then he talks to his father, right?
Yep.
And it was basically AI dad stored in crystals,
Right.
asks advice, gets feedback, and I think that's where we're headed.
Do you think when they produced that movie that's what they thought, that this was an AI version of, or like a Ghost in the Machine sort of
Maybe.
situation?
But I will
That's
say, I saw
interesting.
the video, and AI has gotten pretty advanced. They must have had the free version of Chat GPT because the video quality was actually pretty crap. It was the guy's face, and his mouth would move, but the beard stayed stationary. So it
Oh,
was like those old times, like you would cut out the lips of a picture and stick
okay.
somebody else's lips in, and that would do
Yeah.
all the talking. That's what it looked like. It was
Yeah.
really poorly done.
I don't, yeah, that's why I think that it's probably just best for the world if, when I do pass on from existence, that
Just stop right there.
nobody.
That was a great end of the sentence.
Way to jump quick on that one, Bill. Um,
There will be
I
cheering in the streets.
I was going to also bring up the so India and Pakistan. So the situation going on between India and Pakistan right now is one that's concerning for me, because I have resources and friends that live in northern India, even towards the northwest area where they borders Pakistan. Our company, recognizing that we have somewhere in the order of 400, 500 employees that live in India, that there has been, obviously, with some of the blackouts that have been done, and they have had sirens going off about potential incoming missile strikes and things like that. A lot of our employees either work in the office or they work from remotely from home. And Saturday, it was very early in the morning that I say early, the sun was up. But I got a notification saying that a ceasefire had been, an absolute ceasefire had been met, and that both parties had agreed to it. And I thought, great, they've come to an agreement that there's been a ceasefire and whatnot. Um, and then I saw a Truth Social post, I guess, put into a news article, that Donald Trump had claimed that he had negotiated this truce. And so I'm reading this article, and then I get a news flash that says ceasefire is ended. Pakistan and India are back at it, and just conversations with some of my resources in India that are basically at home working through this, and things like that. Um, I in conversations with them, there's obviously a disgust for Pakistan from the Indian side. Um, but we talked about it a little bit. I said, "What's the difference between you and let's say someone adjacent to you in Pakistan?" They said, "Well, they're Muslim and we're Hindi or Hindu." And I said, "That's the only difference. So this is just a religious thing. That's all this is." And then we started talking about some of the
Well,
actual,
so
like,
I want to rewind a little bit
sure,
because you mentioned Trump took credit for the ceasefire.
yes, correct,
Didn't the India government come out and say no, he had nothing
they
to do
did,
with it, that this was a
yeah,
direct negotiation between the two governments?
yeah, yeah, they did. And he did claim full. He fully participated in the ceasefire talks, and that there was a negotiation and whatnot. But just from that, like, he's a huge joke in India. Like, there have been, like, India, Donald Trump in India, Donald Trump does get a fair amount of positive feedback. They sort of like that sort of authoritarian leader. They like that he seems to be outward and in front of the press a lot. Um, but they don't understand what it is he's saying. They just see that he's on television a lot and that he talks a lot. Because with Modi, they don't see Modi as often. Modi comes out and does his thing when, whatever. And I don't know enough about Modi. I think that he's sort of an authoritarian. He gives me the authoritarian vibes. But for the most part, India is still a democracy, the same as the United States. But so they seem to appreciate how often Donald Trump makes his appearances, but I have to remind them that we would prefer that he not make quite as many appearances. That maybe if he just held back, I don't know, out of 10 press conferences in a day, maybe 2.
There's a TV series that talked about the history of India and Pakistan, and it's a very tragic moment in that region's history. I think they call it the separation,
Yeah.
where literally, that line was forced. And that night when that border went up was, displacement of families, separation of families, crying and anguish and death. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a very violent time. You know what TV series that was? And it's going to sound silly, but it was one of the Marvel series, Ms. Marvel, that 6-episode run,
Yeah.
and her family is Pakistani.
Yeah.
But there's considerable flashback and tie-in to the timeline of the separation that they filmed, I thought, very, very well.
Yeah.
And you can feel the emotion of that time, just the trains leaving and people crammed trying to get out and find their families, and very emotional time that, we as Americans are, we just know our history, the American Civil War, but you have to realize that the British Empire imposed this separation and formed Pakistan and India as 2 separate entities. And to this day, there's still clashes over it.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of documentaries on the British, and the whole reason the British thought they were doing it for the benefit of the people, because they said, as of this date, there will be a border between the Muslims and the Hindus, but like for the families that didn't traverse that line to be in their safe areas before that, and then there was just turmoil over where the border actually was for a good period of time too. So people raising stock or agriculture on one side, thinking that they were in their safe zone, only to find out that the Pakistanis that now existed on this side of the border were just going through and just ravaging some of the land from India, or killing and whatnot. So like it went on, like it almost created a sense of we have this authority to do this because you're now in our land. But it was a pretty, just the amount of hate between the two groups, even though they're only separated by a religious line between, their almighty and their all almighty, all of their almighties. So it's, but anyway, so the whole point of that is that Donald Trump took credit for something that everyone else seemed to acknowledge that there's no way he took credit. There's no reason for him to have taken credit for. It's just awkward. How many things are we going to have to go through over the next 3 years where Donald Trump takes credit for something that just absolutely he had no role in?
Well, when you win Best of Columbia, he will come out and take credit for you winning. You watch out. You know what?
As long as he maintains a good 35 to 40% of our content, I have no issue with that. So
if we didn't have him to talk about, we'd be just sitting here staring blankly at each other for 30 minutes.
There would be no morning show.
Thursday.
There would be no morning show. And to all the people in the TikTok chat that bleed Trump support, just understand that you're in a chat conversation, and I see what's being written. It's weird.
I can't.
Stuff.
Well, just sit there and read them all. I want to hear these chat comments.
All right. Well,
from our brilliant brothers and sisters.
Big Cat said Trump's liked, and okay, so it's going to be hard for me to get through the grammar on some of these. I'm going to try. Trump's liked and respected around the world. Leftists can't see it or won't. I do see it, and I can honestly say as a progressive liberal, I do see it. It's alarming how critical thinking may be just not something that's important around the world.
I mean, isn't the Chinese government creating mock AI videos of Donald Trump during the tariff situation? They respect him so much. They're creating mock videos of a slovenly Trump making garments. And that's
Russia,
government-sponsored videos.
yeah. So
Such respect.
Russia, China, and North Korea are the three countries on the planet that ultimately Donald Trump admires the most. These are, he admires Xi Jinping, he admires Putin, and he admires the little guy over in North Korea. He sees them as being good leaders because they have put their boot on the citizens of their countries. But what a lot of people don't recognize is the fact that of the areas and the IP addresses where we're seeing the most AI jokes come out about Donald Trump, the ones that are like with the guy from Ukraine slapping him during the meeting. Like there's a video of Donald Trump taking it to the face. Slobodan, no, I almost said Milosevic. That's the wrong guy. Anyway, but that one came from North Korea. There are AI videos that are being created in those three countries because while Donald Trump fully respects, Putin and Kim Jong-un and Xi, they do not respect him. They think he's a joke. And the reason that those videos get released from those countries or make it out into the internet is because they allow it. And they think
the
it's
video
funny.
that you need to watch is at the Pope's funeral. You want to see if Trump was respected. You watch as Trump walked into the room and every world leader just ignored him.
I don't think that was AI.
The Ukrainian president walks in and everyone rushes up to him to shake his hand and offer support. And, you can see the difference. That's not even AI. That's
that was fully
literal
real.
disrespect of the current occupant of the White House because the world knows he's a buffoon. The world knows it. They see it. And it's these MAGA red eyes. You talk about derangement syndrome. There it is. It's like they're going to see everything he does and just worship it regardless. I had my cousin, God, I barely talked to. He came onto my timeline and said, "See, look at the stock market going through the roof. You're not giving credit where credit's due." And I said, "Dude, it's still like 2,000 points lower than it was before he took office. You can't give a guy credit for digging his own hole and then filling the hole and saying, 'Oh, wasn't that great construction work that he's doing?' It doesn't work that way."
No.
And we're still worse off today than we were January 20th of this year by all measurements. And so it is a derangement that is absolutely ludicrous.
It is. Yeah. This idea that you can break something just to fix it, which honestly, I think that's just part of his strategy.
He wrote to me, he says, he struck a deal with China. I go, the only deal is that he rescinded or paused the same tariffs he put on. Otherwise, there was no concession. We were supposed to get all these manufacturing plants open here, make America great, keep business in America. None of that occurred. Yet they're running around waving the victory flag over coming in 10th place.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
The tariffs here in the United States for products coming in from China, which by the way, is not going to fix the problem immediately. There is still only about 42 or 43% of imports coming from China right now. Like there aren't new ships that have already set sail with cargo. The likelihood is that when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes available, that very few people in the States are going to be able to get it because
there will be riots in the street, Barrett. The people will not stand to have their Nintendo Switch 2 unavailable. It will be, you thought January 6th was bad? Wait till you see the Nintendo kids. It's going to be chaos.
Yeah. There's no KB toy stores though for them to ransack. I think you can only get it at Best Buy and Target and Walmart and and those places are safe zones, right? They're not, I don't know. But regardless, the truth is that things are still going to get much harder for a lot of people before they get better. And it's not going to be a good situation over the next 2 or 3 months because
that's okay. We've got a Republican Congress hard at work to remove Medicare benefits and health insurance benefits and so on. So we'll be okay. We'll just all die, and won't have to live through it.
Yeah. So I I look forward to the end. I have not read the article yet, but I did have an article pop up on my alerts this morning that said that Donald Trump could extend his presidency past the end of his term.
I may have to go jump in a polluted river. I don't know if I could take a third term.
Well, it's not necessarily a third term, but the idea is that if they postpone the election, I think, and I have to go read the article, but I've heard this one before. If they postpone the election because he's instituted some sort of state
national emergency that he declares,
right? Like a 6 or 7 month long national emergency, then there would not be an election because Roosevelt did it during. There was a pause on the election, I think, during Roosevelt. I may not be correct, but I think I've heard that. I'd have to look that up to make sure. But but then as soon as it was available, as soon as the timing was right, they did.
Well, it's not a bad idea because when you see the pattern that he criticizes somebody or some group over something and then turns around and does it himself, right?
Yeah, of course.
So he has come out early on against Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, because he's gone past his term and they have not held elections because in the Ukraine constitution, if they are under war, you don't hold elections. That's built into their constitution, but he's declaring that he is being a dictator in Ukraine and not following the democratic process.
Right.
So whenever he comes out and criticizes something, you watch as he's going to do the exact same thing at home.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's the lesson for today. I don't know. It's all, we live in the dumbest timeline. That's all
Kimler
I got.
Baby Sugar Shack.
Kimler. So do you want me to explain that real quick before we exit?
I just want people to go to KimlerBabySugarShack.com.
Bill Fry, who is my guest host for the All About Nothing podcast while Zach is on paternity leave, has started a business here in Columbia that is adjacent to his parents' business, which is the Fry Babies down in Hilda, South Carolina. They have a stand that they cook just really good food. There's links in show notes all over the place, but you could search for Fry Babies on Facebook and find their site. So in order for Bill to stay here in Columbia, because he loves being here in Columbia, he has created an adjacent offshoot that does like snow cones and candies and things like that called Fry Babies Sugar Shack.
Whoa. Hold on. That's too close to my company's name. I'm going to file some trademark suits. That's people get confused.
Yeah. Well,
it's really uncreative of him, by the way, just to take my name like that and just turn it into his own. But snow cones too, you said, huh? He couldn't even come up with a unique idea.
Yeah, it's difficult. But he did just message that to me within the last 10 minutes. Minus the recording we did last Wednesday. So
if you're listening, Fry, expect to hear from my lawyers. Expect this to get ugly.
Well, on that bombshell, we're going to wrap it up. Big thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can follow me at Barrett Gruber and Bill at politicalbillsc. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 Eastern for about a half hour. So until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands
off my sugar shack.